Sometimes loneliness doesn't happen when you're alone. Sometimes it happens while you're sitting beside someone you love. You share the same home, the same bed, the same routines. You talk every day, and yet something feels missing. The conversations become practical. The laughter becomes less frequent. The affection becomes routine. And slowly, you begin wondering something you never expected to ask. How can I feel this lonely when I'm not alone? Marriage and relationships don't always break because love disappears. Sometimes, the emotional connection simply becomes weaker. And because the change happens gradually, couples may continue living together without realizing how far apart they've become. Today, we're going to explore the hidden reasons people can feel emotionally alone inside a relationship, and what those patterns may really mean. But first, a story. The story. For almost 8 years, Maya believed she had the kind of marriage people dreamed about. She and Daniel had built a life together, a comfortable home, 2 children, stable routines, family traditions. From the outside, everything looked fine. There were no dramatic arguments, no obvious betrayal, no major crisis. They still said, "I love you." They still celebrated birthdays. They still sat together at dinner. But something had changed. Maya couldn't explain exactly when it started. There wasn't one particular day, one particular argument, one particular moment when everything suddenly became different. It happened slowly. Daniel stopped asking about the little things. The stories Maya used to tell him about her day were met with simple responses. "That's good." "Okay." "I'm tired." At first, Maya didn't think much about it. Everyone gets tired. Everyone gets busy. Everyone has difficult seasons. So she gave him space. Then she noticed something else. They were spending more time together, but talking less. They could sit in the same room for an entire evening without having a meaningful conversation. One night, Maya finally asked, "Are we okay?" Daniel looked surprised. "Of course we're okay." But somehow, that answer didn't make her feel better, because Maya wasn't asking whether they were still together. She was asking whether they were still connected, and she didn't know how to explain the difference. Sign 1. Your conversations become mostly practical. One of the earliest signs of emotional disconnection is a change in conversation. Healthy relationships aren't built only on information. They're also built on curiosity. How was your day? What have you been thinking about lately? What are you excited about? What has been bothering you? These questions create emotional intimacy. But when couples slowly disconnect, conversations can become almost entirely practical. Did you pay the electricity bill? Who's picking up the children? What are we having for dinner? What time are you coming home? Nothing is necessarily wrong with these conversations. The problem begins when they're almost the only conversations left. For Maya, this was happening without either of them noticing. Daniel still talked to her, but he wasn't really talking with her. Their conversations had become information exchanges rather than emotional connection. And that distinction matters, because a couple can communicate every day and still feel emotionally unknown to each other. Sign 2. You stop sharing the little things. Emotional intimacy isn't built only through major conversations. It's often built through tiny moments. A funny thing that happened during the day. A strange thought that crossed your mind. Something you saw that reminded you of your partner. A small victory. A small disappointment. A random memory. These moments may seem insignificant, but sharing them communicates something powerful. You're one of the people I naturally want to experience life with. When that habit disappears, emotional distance can quietly grow. Maya began noticing this in herself. She would see something interesting during the day and instinctively reach for her phone. Then she'd stop. She no longer felt the same urge to tell Daniel. Not because she hated him, not because she had stopped caring, but because the emotional habit of sharing her inner world with him was slowly disappearing. And sometimes, that's how emotional distance begins. Not with silence, but with fewer things you feel excited to share. Sign 3. You feel unseen even when your partner is present. There is a difference between being around someone and feeling seen by them. You can sit beside someone every evening and still feel invisible. You can tell them you're tired, and feel like they didn't really hear you. You can accomplish something important and feel like nobody noticed. You can be struggling emotionally and decide it isn't worth explaining. This was becoming Maya's experience. Daniel wasn't intentionally ignoring her. He was simply becoming less emotionally attentive. And because there was no obvious conflict, Maya struggled to explain why she felt hurt. She began wondering, am I asking for too much? Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe marriage is just supposed to feel like this. But emotional needs don't disappear simply because they're difficult to explain. People generally want to feel known. They want their partner to notice them, to remember things, to care about what matters to them. And when that sense of being emotionally seen disappears for long enough, loneliness can grow even inside a loving relationship. Sign 4. Affection becomes routine instead of connection. Physical affection can change throughout a relationship. That's normal. The intense excitement of a new relationship naturally evolves. But there's a difference between affection becoming calmer and affection becoming emotionally disconnected. A hug can feel warm, or it can feel automatic. A kiss can feel intimate, or it can feel like something you do because you've always done it. Sitting beside your partner can feel comforting, or it can feel like two people occupying the same space. Maya began noticing this difference. Daniel still hugged her, still kissed her goodbye, still said goodnight. But sometimes, she couldn't feel the emotional meaning behind those gestures, and that confused her. Because technically, the affection was still there, but emotionally, something felt different. This is one reason relationship loneliness can be so difficult to understand. The relationship may still contain all the visible signs of love, while the emotional experience of that love has changed. Sign 5. You stop reaching for each other emotionally. Eventually, something even deeper can happen. You stop trying to connect. Not because you don't care, but because you've tried so many times that reaching out begins to feel exhausting. Maya noticed this one evening. Daniel was sitting across from her. They were both looking at their phones. Neither of them had said much for nearly an hour. Months earlier, Maya would have tried to start a conversation. She might have suggested going somewhere together. She might have asked Daniel what he was thinking about. She might have tried to bring back the closeness they once had. But that evening, she didn't. And for the first time, she realized something. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even disappointed. She was tired. Tired of being the one who noticed the distance. Tired of being the one who tried to close it. Tired of wondering whether the person sitting beside her still wanted to know what was happening inside her heart. And that was the moment she understood how lonely she had become. Not because Daniel had physically left, but because emotionally, she had stopped feeling like they were reaching for each other. Why does this happen? Emotional loneliness inside relationships doesn't always mean someone has stopped loving their partner. Sometimes the cause is stress. Sometimes it's exhaustion. Sometimes it's unresolved resentment. Sometimes it's poor communication. Sometimes people become so focused on work, children, finances, responsibilities, and daily survival that emotional connection gets pushed into the background. And sometimes, people simply become comfortable. They stop intentionally maintaining the relationship because they assume the relationship will maintain itself. But emotional connection usually requires attention. It requires curiosity, presence, vulnerability, and effort. A relationship can survive periods of distance. But when distance becomes the permanent pattern, the relationship can begin feeling more like a partnership for managing life than a place where two people emotionally meet. The moment everything changed. A few days later, Maya and Daniel were sitting in the kitchen. There was nothing unusual about the evening. No argument. No crisis. Just another ordinary night. Then Maya finally said, "Do you ever feel like we're together, but not really together?" Daniel looked at her. At first, he didn't know what to say. Then he became quiet. And after several seconds, he said something Maya hadn't expected. "I felt it too." That sentence changed the conversation, because Maya had spent months believing she was the only one who noticed the distance. She had assumed Daniel didn't care. Daniel had assumed Maya was simply busy with life. Both of them had been experiencing the same emotional distance, but neither had known how to talk about it. And sometimes, That's the tragedy of emotional disconnection. Two people can both miss each other while sitting in the same room. What healthy connection really looks like. Healthy relationships don't require constant excitement. They don't require talking every minute. And they certainly don't mean every day will feel romantic. Real relationships have ordinary seasons, busy seasons, stressful seasons, quiet seasons. But healthy connection usually includes something deeper: mutual effort. The willingness to listen, the willingness to notice, the willingness to ask questions, the willingness to say, something feels different between us. And perhaps most importantly, the willingness to listen without immediately becoming defensive. Because sometimes the goal isn't to prove that nothing is wrong. Sometimes the goal is simply to understand what your partner is experiencing. If you feel alone in your relationship, if you've recognized yourself in this story, don't immediately assume your relationship is over. Feeling lonely doesn't automatically mean your partner doesn't love you. And emotional distance doesn't always mean the relationship cannot improve. Instead, pay attention to the pattern. Ask yourself, when did this distance begin? What changed? Have we stopped talking? Have we stopped sharing? Have we stopped being curious about each other? Have we been avoiding something difficult? And perhaps most importantly, have we both stopped trying? Sometimes the first step toward reconnecting isn't a dramatic gesture. It may simply be an honest conversation. A conversation without accusations, without keeping score, without trying to win. Just two people finally admitting, I miss feeling close to you. The deeper truth. Maya eventually learned something important. Love isn't only about staying. It's also about being emotionally present while you stay. You can share a house and still feel distant. You can share responsibilities and still feel unseen. You can say, I love you, and still need to rebuild emotional connection. Because relationships aren't sustained by proximity alone. They're sustained by attention, curiosity, communication, trust, affection, and mutual effort. Sometimes the person beside you isn't asking for a perfect relationship. They're simply asking to feel like they still matter to you. And sometimes, the question isn't, do we still love each other? The more important question may be, do we still know how to reach each other? Because people don't always leave relationships when love disappears. Sometimes, they emotionally disappear long before they physically leave. And recognizing that distance early may give two people an opportunity to talk honestly, to understand what changed, and, if both are willing, begin finding their way back to each other. Final thought. So if you've ever felt lonely beside someone you love, know that the feeling itself deserves attention, not panic, not assumptions, not immediate conclusions. Attention. Because sometimes loneliness is telling you that something inside the relationship needs to be talked about. And sometimes, that conversation can become the beginning of reconnection. So let me ask you, have you ever felt emotionally lonely while being in a relationship? What was the first thing that made you realize something had changed? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might help someone else understand what they're going through. And if you enjoy thoughtful conversations about relationships, emotional psychology, love, marriage, and personal growth, subscribe to Marriage and Relationship 247. Because sometimes understanding what is happening between two people is the first step toward changing it.